I'd like to reconvene our open session and ask you to stand to the pledge. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's a report after closed session this evening. In closed session, by a vote of 5-0, with members Vickers, Perry, Brown, Normandy, and Wolf voting yes, the Board of Education took action to deny a claim against the district. We now have a motion to adopt our agenda. So moved. Second. Is there any change or addition in the agenda?
No, I think we have a correction on the consent calendar, item J.
Okay.
If I just print that out now.
Sure.
The item is correct, but I believe there's some reference to Rattan and Tucker in the background. We just wanted to clarify that was the old firm that the attorney that we primarily use, so that should also reflect Best Western Creeker.
Thank you. All in favor of the agenda as amended? Aye. Opposed? Carries by vote. Now it's time for public comment on non-agenda items. I have several cards here. If you come in and you need to fill out a card for a comment on a non-agenda item, they're on the table out in the front. Yvette Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Dr. Yvette Lopagese. I have 3 boys who attend Laguna Beach schools. I have one at El Moro, I have one at Thurston, and I have one at the high school, so I'm spread out. I would like to inform the board that a statement of support for student activism is circulating throughout our community. The statement reads, "We, the undersigned, parents, teachers, community leaders, support students-initiated acts of civic engagement, demonstration, or other expressions of opinion related to school safety. We do not require that these student-initiated acts be orchestrated by school administrators, as such acts reflect the constitutional rights of students themselves." The statement captures community member and parent concerns over the district's contradictory message of, on the one hand, supporting our students' constitutional right to peacefully protest, and on the other hand, orchestrate changes to the schedule that in essence deprived our students from a real walkout. I have good faith in our leadership. My 3 boys have personally thrived at El Moro and at Thurston due to committed teachers and leaders, and I cannot state this strongly enough. But this one makes me pause. I pause because I'm also incredibly humbled and awestruck by the social justice work by our brilliant and socially conscious youth, who, if you think about it, materialize critical thinking skills, social studies standards, literature that we ask them to read, like To Kill a Mockingbird. In essence, they're bringing curriculum to life. Student voice and student agency are the heart and soul of an intellectually vibrant, educational space that contests the notion that students learn in a bubble. To prevent the muddiness of last week and to ensure students are supported in the development of their opinions, ideas, and their personal role in our democracy, I ask that the board consider a policy on student activism. Social movements abound at this historical moment, and I feel it is timely that we craft a policy that reflects our own city's legacy of social activism. Lastly, a policy pushes forth a transparent message. At the present time, the district's message is that absences will be incurred if students walk out of their classes. The message is clear, and as a parent, I do not hesitate in signing off. Where the present statement becomes problematic is the district's micromanaging of these activities by the students, in this case, changing the bell schedule. I submit both a statement of support for student activism as well as a model policy from Seattle Public School District, which articulates a supportive and not managing leadership role surrounding student-initiated acts of engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Desa Ziziak?
Good evening, I'm Lisa Zuziak. I'm the Meet Day Manager for the Laguna Beach High School Trophy Invite, and I just wanted to stop by because we had an amazing event this year. We had 23 schools. We had 1,850 athletes. We had 500 more athletes than we've ever had before. We had some of the top teams from California and Las Vegas and other areas in Nevada. And we had, I have to give kudos to Steve and Mark Harris for what this meet has become, because this year we had 6 automatic qualifiers to Arcadia in the boys 3,200, because we had the highest such top competition, and we had 3 automatic qualifiers to Arcadia for the girls. In our boys division, we had over 70 boys who were under the 10-minute mark when they came into the meet to run in this event. I mean, that is crazy, and so for us to be able to get that automatic qualifier, have our meet register that, that's a big plus for us. Takes a village. I want to thank Jeff and Ryan for all their help beforehand, and I want to thank Bob and Dorinda at the high school. It takes a lot, and this is the second year we have also worked with the city in advance to mitigate as many issues as we can for the neighborhood. Of course, people started calling at 8 a.m. We were 7 times louder than last year, but we had the police department there almost the whole time, and it was really a joy to have them there, because it's so nice to be able to see them in a positive experience, talking with kids, passing out bracelets. They were very engaged in the events, you know, watching at the fence line, cheering on our Laguna Beach athletes. So it was just a really good day. The rain stopped at 7. It would have been nice if we didn't have the wind, because that adds some things. We had, unfortunately, the top pole vaulter, who's a 15-year-old girl, ended up going to the hospital. She went up and came down, but we thought she had a broken back, but bone bruise. And she got 3rd place still, and she missed 2 jumps. So that was amazing. We didn't have any discus shoots. Nobody got hit. And we had a lot of parents and kids out there helping. So we're on track. I mean, this was our biggest yet, that growth mindset. I don't know how much more we can grow. We had to add, in fact, Steve is so good he doesn't want to cut anyone out. We added another 3,200 heat at 7:40 in the morning, because he doesn't want to say no to anybody. So it was an amazing, positive event. We get nothing but kudos. The shuttles have helped so much with the people coming into town, and so I want to thank Jeff and Ryan for help with that, getting us organized on that. But just wanted to, it's a positive thing. It's a good thing. So.
Thank you, Lisa. I will, you can take back to Steve that I was standing near the end of the day next to a parent, and they were waiting for their son's race. And they looked at that and said, well, they said this was gonna be at 6:03, and it's 6:03.
We were running 20 minutes ahead.
So.
We had to slow down.
I know, that was what I was have to say.
I was happy.
Thank you. Iris Sewell?
Hello, my name is Iris Sewell, and I'm writing this email to the administration regarding the nationwide walkout that occurred on March 14th, 2018. Myself, along with my fellow peers, would like to express our shame towards our school in the way they navigated the walkout. The students are as follows, and there's 106 students listed. Although the administration most likely meant no harm in manipulating the schedule, students feel as though our right to freely protest has been taken away, and that the memorial was in poor taste. 17 seconds is not enough to remember the students killed during the Parkland shooting. Our voices were silenced and our feelings were ignored. Students came up to staff days before the walkout and expressed their discomfort regarding the schedule. Changes should have been made the minute people started to complain. The administration stripped away our opportunity to protest. Although we understand that our education is the most important thing, the school should have applauded students for being involved in our community. The most important kind of education is a hands-on one, and the school should have embraced the idea of students taking action. We would like a public apology from all the members of the administration regarding the way the walkout was handled. Sincerely, the students of LBHS. This was an email I sent to the school regarding the petition and the way the school handled the walkout. Today I had a meeting with a member of the administration and left feeling unsupported by my school. The school had a golden opportunity to teach its students about a real-life situation that goes beyond our campus. This walkout felt less like a nationwide protest and more like a school function. The administration needs to remember that we are the school. Our opinions count. Even though there were only 106 out of 900 students who signed the petition, as it was pointed out to me today during this meeting, one student who feels their voice isn't being heard is one too many. Thank you.
Sherry Morgan?
I can't deviate from my card, can't I, because what they said was great, I support what they said. So I'm here, my name is Sherry Morgan, I have a student at the high school, and middle school, and the elementary school at TOW. I'm here to comment regarding the ongoing process of developing a booster policy and how you handle booster meetings and how you handle the booster program for across all sports. And as you're developing this program, I'd like to encourage you to include a couple of pieces, and not seeing it, not knowing what it looks like. I might be just covering things that you already have. But I would certainly like to see that the booster program includes a mandatory number of meetings to allow and encourage and mandate open lines of communication. Currently it seems as though there's no requirement of how many meetings you have. One year we had 2 or 3 baseball booster meetings, another year we had 1. Basketball, we've only had 1 every year. Swimming, I think we had 1 or 2. And some teams are going to be smaller and some teams are going to communicate better than others. I think it depends on the personality of the team that year. I'd also like you to consider hiring a staff member that might be the administrator to facilitate the invoices and the processes of how each team manages their invoices of what's paid and what's not, and have that person be fully and completely educated on what the district should be paying for, what the team should be paying for, and what the booster should be paying for, because it seems to be that there's complete and total chaos as far as who pays for what, and nobody seems to really know what is what, unless you actually bother to ask questions. So I'd really like you to look at those 2 things. And then as far as regarding the athletics itself and the new building that's coming out, Building P, which is on my card, so that DVD. And I'm not sure how that's funded totally, or like what is included in that funding, but I would like to have you consider, if it's not being taken into consideration, that the funding that is involved in that building and how that works, if you could assure that it's fully funded to have the snack bar itself a fully functioning snack bar, so that the idea of who funds something as trivial as a hot dog, but have those things funded as a district item, so that one particular booster team is not required to or responsible for fundraising it, and then say track uses it or baseball, so everybody's not trying to protect their own things. But then that would allow for fundraising opportunities for each team, and that could be something that the whole overarching booster process is looked at. And then consider staffing it with, whether each team staffs it and that team is the one that gets to receive the funds, or have it be a community service option, or have it be a community service option and have one team person oversee it that time or something like that. Because I'm guessing with its proximity, it could be used for track meets, it could be used for baseball, it could be used for lacrosse. There's going to be a lot more crossover, I think, than you actually realize, or maybe it has been realized. But I would like those things to be looked at.
Thank you, Sherry. Anyone wishes to make a public comment? Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't get a chance.
Pass it down. Thank you.
My name's Howard Hills, and I just want to say that I'm very impressed by the statements that were made here tonight about the Day of Recognition for what happened down in Parkland. I remember April 4th, 1968, when we got word that Martin Luther King had been assassinated. And we were at Laguna Beach High School, and I was involved in student government. And it was a period of student activism. And we were getting so much support from the principal and the superintendent and the school board for what we did on a variety of issues, both in the school board, on the campus, and even in community affairs, going down as students and testifying in city council. We were getting so much encouragement for that civic activism that when Martin Luther King was assassinated, we didn't go ask anybody. We called an assembly in the Artist Theater at Laguna Beach High School, and the entire student body showed up. And we ran our own program for 3 hours on Martin Luther King's assassination. We didn't have to ask. Principal showed up after about an hour and stood in the back of the room and watched us. When the Beatles happened and surfing was happening, we were all wearing our hair long, the football coach said we all had to get butch haircuts if we wanted to be on the football team. And we said, okay, well then we won't be on the football team. I might have made a pretty good receiver. So then we decided that these dress code rules weren't working. And 300 students walked out and stood on the lawn and said, we're not going back to classes until the administration agrees to negotiate with us on dress code. And the LA Times came down and covered it, and we had a really positive article in the LA Times in which the principal was commending us. And so, you know, I looked at what happened last week, and you know, for a long time, in fact for about 10 years, I've been recommending that there be a committed program to restore student government at Laguna Beach High School, the kind of student government we had back then with a student court and student congress and student council. I think that if it had existed, it could have done a lot last year to deal with the issue of negative socialization on racial and gender issues that took place. And I remember Mr. Herzog made an announcement that a House of Representatives had been established. So I called him up to commend him. And by the way, Board Member Norman, it was good to see you down on Saturday down at the demonstration on gun safety for our schools. And by the way, had there been a student-run program, I would have been glad to come in as a constitutional lawyer and explain why the NRA's interpretation of the Second Amendment is completely bogus.
Howard, excuse me for a moment, do you choose to give Howard more time? It's okay, another 30 seconds.
Thank you very much, I appreciate the courtesy, and I'll wrap it up very quickly. I'll just say this, I was a Peace Corps volunteer when I got out of law school, and I drafted constitutions for 3 Pacific Island nations, and I drafted treaties between the United Nations and took them through the treaty ratification process in the Congress, and represented the U.S. government defending the treaties in the federal courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, and I took the treaties through the Security Council of the United Nations. I've written constitutions for student governments all over the United States, and I'd like to volunteer. By the way, I'll end it by saying this. I've heard great things about the new principal at Laguna Beach High School, both from students and from parents. And I would just like to say I would be glad to volunteer. My knowledge as a constitutional lawyer who's been decorated by Presidential Service and Special Act Awards at the State Department, I would be glad to come and help the principal and the school and students work on developing a program of student government so that next time students won't have to ask permission, they'll know what their rights are when they want to demonstrate. So, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I was going to mention, after you mentioned Dr. Allman, that you might want to learn about the things that he's doing. I think that would be very eye-opening for you as to the moves he's taking with the Senate, and also the concept and the changes that we're headed for with student rep to the board. That it will be, I believe, much more dynamic. But I'm sure you can learn that from him.
Chloe wanted to know if she could comment.
Well, she has a comment when we get to it.
Okay. Can you say that?
I'm gonna let this run so it resets itself.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on, yes, would you turn in a blue card or else stand and identify yourself? Oh, okay, thank you. Just pass it down. Thank you. Diego?
Hello. My name is Diego Lapayese Calderon. I'm a student at Laguna Beach High School, and it occurred to me a little while ago we had a walkout, or rather should I say we had more of a break. When I went to the walkout, I was proud of my fellow students. They had organized this way to protest against the gun laws, and they had a way to protest against what happened in Florida and what had happened in all the other events where something like this had occurred. But someone came to me and asked me, when the walkout wasn't breaking. It was unfortunate for me to say, this was the walkout. Break was the walkout, and it was not the most pleasurable thing to see, to just have 17 seconds of silence. I didn't even know there was 17 seconds of silence. I was in the bathroom, to tell you honestly, and I was only there for the last 5 seconds. It was not organized well, and it was not done well. I feel personally it could have been done better. We could have done better to do something to protest the people who died in Florida, because death and what we got, it doesn't match. So, for example, let's give a 17-second moment of silence for the people who died in Florida. Thank you. And now, what we would do then was we wrote little comments of what we thought, what happened. And that was it. That was the walkout. We were returned to class, and that was it. I think I felt almost inferior to who I really was, and I felt a lot of kids told me that too. We might be teenagers, we're little, in adult size, but we're still people. And a lot of us were capable of doing this in a responsible way. We weren't going to go walk off of campus because of, hanging out with friends or things like that. We were going to do it because we felt we had to protest, and we had a responsibility to protest for what happened in Florida. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or items not on the agenda? We have no recognitions this evening. We begin our reports with our student report. Chloe.
Okay, so I'll start off by talking about the walkout. And since I'm an ASB, we've been talking about that prior to the actual event for about 2 weeks to see how our school was going to be handling it. And at the time we began our discussion, we weren't aware that the bell schedule was going to be changed. And when we did hear about that, almost every single kid in the classroom, even the kids that didn't support what the actual protest was doing, because that's our right as American citizens. We can protest and we can also not protest. So that's the one thing that was difficult to understand, why ours was extremely inclusive when we know that this protest was against gun laws and gun violence. It wasn't supposed to be for people that disagreed and agreed. I mean, I understand acts of violence are pretty much unanimously agreed upon that are as a bad thing, but a lot of people have come up to me in the past week, and it's really embarrassing as someone a part of ASB that feels like we have the duty and the responsibility to make change on our campus and feel like we have no power. Almost every single kid in the classroom hated the idea of the bell schedule, and I even mentioned it to my teachers and even other faculty members that was not the greatest decision, and I knew many students would not have appreciated it as well, but there was nothing that we could do, and I understand that the school cannot form a political side or anything like that. I know that's not what it is about, but I feel like a lot of students also were very scared of punishment to even participate in a walkout like that. So many kids were so scared to go off campus to protest and participate with them that they stayed on campus and completely upset about it. I had freshmen come up to me crying that they were so upset that they couldn't participate and that they were too scared to go off campus and use their civil right as an American citizen. And that was really frustrating for me. And to comment on your ideas for Senate and ideas like that, we actually have a movement to have more students involved in school activities because ASB is very small, and we want to extend that to many other students that have voices like you guys, so that we can hear what you guys want to say instead of just our one class making decisions on things like dances or school activism, and we're hoping that will really, really help. They're creating bylaws and everything right now to actually extend that to you guys. So that's one thing that we're working on in ASB, because we too are very ashamed that we haven't felt like we've done anything. We've had 2-hour discussions that just kept circulating and having no end to them, and we're trying to figure out a way to have a more positive and informational and effective meetings that could end up changing our school culture for the better, especially things that happened last year and for future events, because it's impossible to say that nothing will ever happen. And on this campus, especially as a student, I'm telling you that I'm terrified. I'm freaked out because we're in a school campus that has 14 entrances and exits that are not regulated, are not closed off. And I'm not saying we want our school to be closed off. I love our school and I think we have the most beautiful campus. And whenever I can just go on a walk around our campus during ASB just walk around, it's the most beautiful campus and I love our school so much and we have so many opportunities, but we're scared. And I'm saying this as all of our students, we are really scared that there's nothing being done, and I know that there is because Billinger has come to our classrooms and reassured us that he's doing everything he can to change and make us feel more safe, but at the moment we don't, and I would really appreciate if something was done that we would feel more safe, because you can't say it hasn't happened here. We've had threats and we've had other instances, and while I was at school, I know the kids that have threatened and I know the whole idea of everything, but it's just, we're really scared, and this is our lives being lost and the lives of the teachers being lost, and that's really threatening to us because we should come to school without being fearful. And if we're scared of even protesting, you should imagine how scared we are of a gunman coming onto our campus. My mom was really scared and she had to sit down with me and try to make me think, what would I do if something happened like that? She feels awful that I even have to think about that I have to think, what would I do in each of my classes? Would I hide? Would I stand by the door? Should we all get our textbooks? That's not something that kids should have to worry about, and if there's anything that you guys can do, it would be incredible. Anyway, moving on from that, last week we had 8th grade parent night, and it was actually very exciting because I actually got to organize it this year, and I did last year too, but mostly just focused on the club parts because I'm club commissioner. But we had many students, and I even set up my PA system in the corner so we could have karaoke club perform and get some 8th graders involved and come in. We had even 3rd graders that were siblings come and sing Feel the Wind, Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield, all these very popular songs. It was just really, really fun, and I think a lot of the 8th graders are more excited. We had about 16 clubs come this year, which I think was more than last year. And that was just a really exciting night, especially for me. I had fun. So this week also we had ASB packets for election and commissioner petitions. They're out, and we've had the most students take the packets that we had to reprint a bunch. So that's really cool that a lot of students are really interested in this, although it's very hard to get it. But we posted it all over social media, and I think that utilizing the media really benefited our school, so that was something that we're going to keep doing. This last weekend, All Shook Up finished up their performance, and we had a packed house every single night, which was very exciting. And even on Sundays, which are typically our days without any things like that, any people. And Frank auditions are this week, tonight and yesterday, I believe, and I know some students are auditioning Wednesday, and that will be performed at the middle school, and in an effort to spread positivity and understanding of the things that happened in the Holocaust. Not to mention, it's a beautifully written play, so I think 8th graders also still read it, I think. Anyway, CASP testing is coming, and a lot of the teachers have been preparing us for, even tomorrow I believe we have testing, or practice testing. We're getting ready for that. And then this week, counselors assisted students in their course selection for next year. So that's the educational report, and then I have the athletic report from Mr. Neal. So spring sports are in full swing, and this is our busiest time of year. Yesterday we hosted league rival Godinez in boys and girls track and field. Our boys golf team won the Estancia Golf Tournament, and our softball team beat Bolsa Grande High School 16-4 at Thurston Middle School. Today our varsity and JV golf teams have a league match against Estancia. Our boys are in strong contention for other Orange Coast League titles. Our boys tennis, volleyball, and baseball teams are all competing against Costa Mesa High School. All 3 programs are improving and looking to capture league championships. Our girls sand volleyball is competing against St. Joseph's High School today as well. Our boys and girls swim teams are at Saddleback High School tomorrow, while our girls softball team is traveling to Catalina to play Avalon High School. Our boys and girls lacrosse teams have had several games in their inaugural season. The debut of Breaker Lacrosse has been really fun. We've appreciated Board President Vickers taking in our lacrosse action. We are looking forward to spring break next week and then returning to finish the year strong as our teams compete to qualify the CIF playoffs. Go Breakers. And that is all. Thank you.
Let's turn that on and.
Yes. Okay, so I got to go to the staff preview of All Shook Up, and I have to say, it was so delightful. Sometimes school is a tiny bit stressful, I know that's surprising, but going in and seeing the show and seeing all of our students up there really made my day. And I took my 90-year-old next door neighbor with me, and she had a blast. She did say that they didn't say any bad words in reality in the 40s, so that was one difference in your show from the we were able to send 9 teachers to a good teaching conference in the lovely city of Garden Grove last weekend, but they really had a positive experience there. I was able to get a CTA grant to cover them going, and they went for the weekend, enjoyed being together, and on Monday I emailed just to see how it went, and they said they were already implementing new ideas that they've done there. And I think it just energizes you to go and be with other teachers and rethink the way you're doing things, so that was a big positive. Thank you, Jan, for being at the Crystal Apple Awards. It was fun to see you there and to honor 2 of our high school teachers. We have enjoyed our IBB training with administration, and it was kind of interesting and great to see that we have a lot of common interests, common recognitions of areas of strengths and weaknesses that we all want to work on, and also to really recognize as we looked through all the data that we have a very strong common interest in utilizing the resources, human resources and financial resources that we have for the best, safest education opportunities for our kids. So I did have many teachers from each site contacting us to determine the best and safest way to practice, to protest, and being cognizant of wanting to make sure that our students were safe, being cognizant of following administrative guidelines and recognizing that there was a lot of thought that went into that, and so I apologize if it didn't turn out the way that you guys had wanted it to, and I'm grateful that you stood up and shared your feelings. I think that's great for us to hear as we navigate the next steps, because our primary interest for all of us is to keep our schools safe and looking forward for great education.
Good evening. Excuse me. Thank you, Marie. Today, CSEA just finished their second session of IBB negotiations with administration, and it ended in a very positive note with the joint communication to be coming out soon. And we'll have our third session mid-April. And CSEA just finished up with what we call our Lucky Gram, our spring opportunity raffle basket that was actually won by one of our very own Heidi Weinberg, and raised $148, and it was just a Thurston site. And everything seemed to be going well with our classified staff, and looking forward to spring break, as I'm sure everyone else is. So, thank you.
Do we have any representatives here tonight from School Power PTA? Then we go to board members. Thank you.
Last week I attended the School Services Symposium for Community Funded Districts in Sacramento with Victoria and Jeff. It was really informational, and it was all community funded districts in the room. Jeff will give a more detail.
I did.
Went to the joint district school power endowment meeting and heard the basics. Robin is going to be retiring, and so they're going to start searching for someone to replace her. They were very pleased with the need and implementation that they over-raised, and so they were pleased to know that we've already thought about how we will use that extra money in that same vein. So the digital.
I didn't attend anything on the part of the board, but before Chloe left, I wanted to say how much I enjoyed you as the fuddy-duddy mayor. Great voice.
Thank you so much.
Well, according to the student newspaper, it was not how you are, so you had to learn to be, let's say, the mean person or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Evil person.
It took a little work.
That's acting. I also, the only thing that Peggy and I were calendar meeting, we are wrapping that up, led by Lisa, and that's study session will be coming to begin the process for that regarding the 1920 school year. It's a lot of work by a lot of people to get broad-based representation. And other than that, I'll wait till the end of the piece. So, Lisa.
Okay, so first of all, Dr. Valoria is recovering from his surgery and he looks forward to being back later this week. So we'll be glad to have him back, of course. The Crystal Apple Awards, as Mindy mentioned, we were, I know Jan was there, we were able to honor, it's just nice to be present to honor Mark Alvarez and Laura Greco from Laguna Beach High School. And I think what's really special about that award is that it's student nominated. So I think that means more than, you know, I mean, just to hear the students speak about the teachers and the impacts that they've had on their lives is really powerful. I also wanted to let you know that Laguna Beach High School has received a Civic Education Award of Merit from the California court system. And that in particular is for their AP European History and MUN programs. So we're pleased to recognize them for that. And then finally, the three of us were at the School of Power Chef's Challenge. We have a new king and queen, I guess I should say, of the Chef's Challenge with the Golden Spatula, Dr. Alleman and Solberg.
Just top chef, king is quite a
So always a fun event. They work really hard at that event, so we're pleased to participate.
Thank you, President Vickers. First, Chloe, thank you so much for those comments on safety. I think that's so important that we get that message out to our school sites. One of the major successes we had last week, we were our largest showing at a safety committee meeting. We had parents. This is a topic that we take incredibly seriously. We even have police now on our safety committee, and they sign off on our emergency plans each year. So any recommendations that you pass along to Dr. Alleman or Mr. Bellinger on how to improve the safety of your campus does make it to that committee meeting, so I'd encourage you to do that. It's something that we've been working on very hard for a long time. It's constantly evolving because we can never predict what the next situation is going to be, but that's the unfortunate side, but it doesn't mean we can't prepare. So thank you, Ryan, for facilitating that. He's done a great job facilitating our safety committee meetings. As Peggy mentioned, we did go to Sacramento last week for the SF Squared Community Funded District Symposium. Lots of good information, lots of potential legislation. However, the highlights include a lot of focus on raising the base LCFF grant amounts, which affects us in terms of our basic aid differential calculation. But there is no real significant or potential legislation that would roll special ed funding or career technical ed funding into the LCFF base grant. So that's pretty big for us, and that's a good thing for us now to keep them as categoricals. Everything else, we spent a lot of time discussing the importance of reserves, and we even broke out into small groups, and I was able to boast about what a great job that we've done over the past few years to build that up for Laguna Beach. And because we're in good times, this is the time to build a reserve. Don't try to do that in bad times. With that, that's my.
Can I ask one question selfishly, for College and Career Advantage? Have you heard any more about that, how that funding is gonna look?
Yes, so the latest proposal, most serious proposal, is to actually take it away from the community colleges as a pass-through, make it a permanent categorical funding, and increase it to $500 million a year.
Yes, that's awesome.
So we'll know more at the May revision whether or not that's getting more traction, but that's the strongest proposal so far.
Thank you.
And Jeff, I noted in your report that they brought up Monterey and what they were looking at, because that is exactly.
Montecito.
Sorry. That's exactly what happened here after the fire.
Yes.
And it was, no amount of planning without understanding the catastrophic effect on the tax revenues. Yeah, so, and that's why we have
devastating
such high reserves now, because you never know.
Yep. You're expecting a 4% gain year over year, and you get a 7 or a 13% loss. So a net 17% in the whole.
Thank you. Alicia.
Good evening, everyone. So I would like to just thank the instructional services staff for their work. We had a fantastic DLAC parent night last Thursday. I'd like to thank Paul Canarak for joining us over several occasions. He joined us in leadership. He was presented at high school, and then again last Wednesday to our gay families. We're gonna post that video on our website, so we appreciate his joining us and supporting us. LCAP, our third advisory committee meeting is this week. We spent time looking at district data, we're gonna dive into individual site data. And I do wanna commend you, All Shook Up was extraordinary.
I saw it.
Yeah, my kids loved it, thank you.
Thank you. Now we move to our consent calendar. Are there any of the items that board members would like to pull? Okay, then I need a motion please for consent calendar items 12A through J. Second. Any public comment on the consent calendar? Yes, Mr. Mills.
My name's Howard Hills. I'd just like to say that I'd like to commend the board and the staff because I really think that your practices with respect to the consent calendar have improved a lot. I was very critical of the manner in which the consent calendar was being handled in past years, and I think you've boiled it down. I just give one example of the kind of thing that concerned me in the past. I noticed in the facilities report that has been prepared and presented here tonight, I may have some other comments about that, but the projections for student enrollment and the decline of student enrollment sort of bear out what we were saying a few years ago, and we had, I remember the president of the board at the time insisted that those projections were wrong and that enrollment was actually going to increase, and it was in that context of that debate that there was a consent calendar item approved to fund a contract giving instructions to the consultant to come up with a justification of increasing the facility fees from about $5,000, the current, about $5,000 for new homes and reconstruction of homes, the facility fee that people pay when they get building permits in town to support the schools. And under the statute, those increases of the facilities fees have to be justified by increased enrollment or by construction that is projected to increase enrollment. And you all you paid money to a contractor, and the contract wasn't for them to determine if it was justified under the statutory standard. The contract was that they shall come up with a justification to do it. And in fact, what the report said was that there would be 3,500 homes built in Laguna of the average of 3,000 square feet. And I think President Vickers, I think you were one of the board members, and there were several of us in the public who, and board member Perry, who sort of raised our eyebrows and said, where are they going to put 3,500 new homes of 3,000 square feet? But the point is, that all had been set in motion by something that was passed in the consent calendar, with no public discussion, without an action item, and that contract was let. And if people hadn't been paying attention, that could have gone through. In fact, I think it would have gone through. So I just want to say that in the past I was a critic of the fact that there was often stuff in the consent calendar that I really felt should not be on the consent calendar. And I came in tonight, I was very pleasantly surprised. I want to commend the board and the staff for the discipline and the conscientiousness with which the consent calendar is now being managed to be items. For instance, the $610,000 for warrants that have already been audited by the Orange County Department of Education. That's the kind of thing that should be on the consent calendar, so we don't have to sit and go through all that in a meeting. So I just want to commend the board for the fact that I think their practices have improved in that area.
Thank you. Any board questions on these items? Motion?
Oh, I have a question. I wondered about, I saw the conference workshop attendance for the PLC. I know we're putting emphasis on that next year, which I think is good. I just wondered why there no one from middle school or high school was going.
Can I respond to this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead. I didn't know she was asking me.
Well, I
just
just
said that.
Anybody.
So it's my understanding that the secondary sites have identified a second conference, and now they're seeking staff to attend with that one. It's a separate PLC conference.
Perfect. Okay.
Any other questions?
September, thank you.
Motion please. Any board discussion on these items? All those in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. We have information item tonight on nutritional services update with Jeff Dixon and Deborah Kell.
Thank you, President Vickers. I'd like to call up Ms. Deborah Pell to podium. We're going to present some information tonight. You may recall we issued out a survey in the month of February, and thanks to all of our principals for including it as last. And we wanted to get kind of a feel for what everyone's understanding or desires were related to our nutrition services program. I see Shaheen out in the audience there, so thank you, Shaheen, for your help kind of getting that going. We're basically trying to gauge not just where our parents and hopefully students are interested in improving the program, but what they might know about the program. And I'm happy to report that when we sent it out, we got a total of 192 responses, so that's 192 different families. And it represents students from all 4 schools. So the most of the students came from Top of the World, and then followed by Thurston Middle School, Elmore, and then the high school. The board does have a copy of the actual survey results, but what you're going to see tonight is a summary in the PowerPoint, and it's the exact same data, it's just presented as a summary versus detail. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Pell.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, everyone. Can we have the next slide, please? The first slide is student participation. The question was, how often does your child buy lunch? And as you can see, the percentage is 48% is weekly. And the participation rate, we showed in the graph here, the percentages of the students for each year from 2013 through 2014-15. It's about, started at 20%, went to 19%. Next slide is 15-16, it went up to 21%, and that was after the new couple years after the new regulations were unveiled, and actually the participation started to increase in 2015-16. 2016-17, it went down again to the 19%, and that was partially due to less free and reduced applications being submitted by about 50 or so applications. And I would attribute that to probably DLAC and DECA, and a lot of the parents not wanting to put that information online or on paper. And so if there's anything we could do about that to get that participation back up and get those kids back eating again, that would be great. Also, I think there was a slight decline in enrollment for that year. The next slide here is a breakfast program. Currently, as you can see from this slide, there is little interest in a breakfast program at the elementary schools. The good news is we do have breakfast at the middle school and the high school. Next slide, please. This slide, as you can see, 50% were satisfied or highly satisfied, leaving another 50% that were maybe not as satisfied with the program. And I think that maybe making that percentage of people aware of the nutrition program and what it offers the students and the district might help educate the parents and the students on the program. We have a lot of scratch-made entrees that are made at the sites. All 4 sites are cooking sites. Top of the World does a little bit less cooking than the others because of stovetop issue. But we make our own marinara and meat sauce for our pasta entrees. We make homemade macaroni and cheese, chili con carne, barbecued pulled pork. We make fresh fruit parfaits every day using organic fruits, breakfast burritos, breakfast sandwiches, and we make fresh lunch sandwiches daily, among other things, but these are some of the things that we make fresh in-house. The next slide, we also make our own ranch dressing, and it is gluten-free, and it's made with real buttermilk, and no MSG in either the Italian or the ranch dressing, which we make fresh on site. Get to some fun slides here. This is a slide Harvest of the Month, working with the garden program at Top of the World School. We did in, I believe it was persimmons, December. We did persimmons in December, and as you can see on the left-hand side, there's a bucket of persimmons. Those were harvested by the students from the Top of the World Garden. Nutrition Services chipped in and bought some more persimmons, and we made a tasty apple and persimmon salad that the kids, as you can see, the kids, Patty Reagan's class, she has her leadership kids come and help me with the Harvest of the Month. You can see them preparing it, and there's all information on the table that the students read and they communicate to their peers about the, produce coming from their garden, and this is from our garden, they really take ownership in it. Next slide. This one was this month, this was strawberries, organic strawberries, and again, Patty Ravens gets the leadership group. They love helping, I think they like to eat the fruit too. We did broccoli in February, and it's amazing how many kids love broccoli. We didn't have not one broccoli piece left. And then next month is snack peas. So we try to coordinate with the Chocolate World Garden and what they're harvesting, let the students harvest, and then we kind of supplement with enough fruit to vegetables to let the kids taste that. So that's a fun slide. On to the next one. Healthy choices. The importance of non-GMO food in your food options. And you can see that's just as important to the parents as it is to the district. As you can see from this slide, the milk we serve contains no added sugar or hormones, no high fructose corn syrup. We get fresh baked bread from a local bakery. Our hamburgers are 100% grass-fed, all beef, no hormones, no antibiotics ever. We also have the hot dogs, 100% all beef, no nitrate, no nitrites. That's all served on a whole grain bun. The next slide, please. We also have organic produce. And I don't know if everybody knows that, but we are using a program that we buy from local farmers, and we harvest from the farms. So when I order the produce online, I'm saying I'm getting it from this farm, that farm, actually harvesting for our district. Why I say 95% organic produce is because weather, things like that you can't ever judge. Our persimmons, when we got our persimmons, we didn't get them because they went bad before we needed them. So there are times that we won't get that, we'll have to switch over to the conventional, they'll send us conventional in lieu of the organic, because it's just not available. Right here on this slide, you can see we have salad bars at 3 of the 4 sites, and we've had those salad bars since 2001. We were one of the first districts in Southern California to have salad bars in their schools. They were all donated, didn't cost food services anything, and they came from Whole Foods as part of the Salad Bars to School program. On Victoria, that other slide, this slide here shows on a non-salad bar day, we still offer fresh fruit and vegetable options. Some people might say, well, you put canned fruit on the plate. Well, we do that because when a student goes through the lunch line and goes through the check stand, they have to have a reimbursable meal on the plate. And so the salad bar is after the check stand, so there's no way for us to gauge what they're going to put on that plate as far as the requirement for a fruit and vegetable. So that canned fruit on the plate makes it reimbursable, and then they get to go to the salad bar and choose whatever they want. They can take as much or as little as they want. But these sides are on non-salad bar days. We make little side salads, edamame in the little containers, organic baby carrots, organic sliced apples and oranges, and the kids can choose from those with their sides. The next slide is an elementary salad bar. As you can see, we've got fresh strawberries, kiwi, grapes, everything you could imagine on there, 95% organic, as I said. And it's all local. So next slide. This is another one of our specialties. We do fresh fruit parfaits at all sites every day. And on minimum days, when you have parent-teacher conferences at elementary, we serve like a brunch for lunch, and this was the lunch that day. We did a fruit parfait, which has got strawberries, blueberries, bananas, all organic with a vanilla yogurt and granola. Kids love them. Next slide. This is the organic fresh fruit bar for breakfast at the high school. At the high school was a homemade breakfast burrito or a breakfast sandwich, or a cinnamon roll made with sweet potato for sweetener, or a chocolate chip muffin made with sweet potato for sweetener. You can get fresh fruit, all you can eat fresh fruit. And this is our fresh fruit on the fruit bar. This is made fresh every morning and put out for the students to get. And I have to say, over the past years, I know all these regulations enforcing this, take the fruit, take the fruit, take the fruit. We almost don't even have to say it anymore. The kids come in, and the boys especially, they want to get there that morning for breakfast and make sure they get to that fruit bar so they can get some of that fresh fruit. We also, in our baskets, if they're coming through with a breakfast and they don't have fruit, we have to give them a fruit in order to get that reimbursement. We have organic apples, oranges, and carrots at the check stand that we can hand out to them. The next slide. So what's next? In a continued effort to improve the quality of food we provide our students, we're exploring a new poultry option. We're going to do a taste test on March 23rd for some new chicken products that are no antibiotics ever, no animal byproducts ever, 100% veggie fed, clean label, and non-GMO. That we're working with a company called Soma Foods, who supplies our hamburgers right now. And then we're working on the poultry option next. This is really hard for a district our size because a lot of districts aren't buying organic, non-GMO, you know, no antibiotics, they're not buying it. So the school vendors don't have it, so I have to go out and I have to find it. And then I have to figure out how I'm gonna get my vendor to get it into their operation so that I can purchase it for them, which becomes difficult. It's more of a special order thing, and sometimes it's, you know, just hard to get. The good news on that is that there is a new urban school coalition that started, an alliance that started with 6 of the largest districts in the country. New York, New Jersey, Florida, Boston, LA, they're all getting together and they're working on a way to form a conglomerate that will be able to have a larger purchasing power. And they're going after these kind of things. So with the help of them, I'm, you know, already doing it in my small way, which is very hard, but once this hits the floor running, then that will help me to get where I want to be faster. Next slide. Cashless payments system, good news, we have it. We've had it for quite a while now, 2004 or 5, something even longer. So we do have cashless payment, it's pretty seamless. If anybody ever needs help with it, just call me, I know all about it and I'll help you out on that. Next slide. The cost to purchase lunch, as you can see, there's no increase in lunch price since 2013. But as we continue to look for ways to improve and change meal options, there does appear to be general support for increased prices of lunch. And I think that's it, unless you have any questions.
Well, a couple things. I saw in some of the comments that some students aren't buying lunch because the line's so long. So I guess your food's so good, the line's long, and I don't know if there's something that can be done
Yeah,
about
you know,
that.
that's been such an ongoing thing, and I really am not sure, you know, how we would handle that. I know a parent had said something about prepaying for a lunch and then having 2 lines, but then you need another person to man that line, and if you just put it on a table, then it's an honesty where somebody might take someone else's lunch and, you know, it could become a real issue. If anyone has any idea about lunch lines, I'm open to it because, you know, we've got the prepayment system, it's a pin pad, and kids down as far as 10 down, if you put the pin pad far enough away, as far as 10 down can get your number in and you can see them. And, you know, at the elementary site, it's pretty quick, it's just getting those kids to, you know, get that number in and, you know, just as soon as they don't need to wait until they get to you, they can do it when they're way down there. In the past, we used to have the coaches at the elementaries help the kids and prod them along, which was really helpful, which we don't have anymore. I don't know if that's something that we could look at, but that's always been an issue, and I, for the life of me, can't figure out what, you know, where to go with that. So if anybody has any ideas, I'm open.
Have we ever tried honor system? We don't have any answer for that. I think they tried it first.
I think I've had a person.
I was curious, which site does not have a salad bar?
Thurston. And we did try to do a salad bar at Thurston a couple years ago when we built a cafe.
Right.
Ultimately, we wanted to open up that cafe as a salad bar because you have to have a salad bar indoors.
Okay.
Health department stipulates you cannot have a salad bar outside. So we took that ballroom and we were gonna create a salad bar room with it.
Right.
No matter how we configured it, it just would have been, you know, too much trying to get around that salad bar to get anything in, so.
You have pre-made salads though.
But we
right?
have pre-made salads at all at both
Okay.
sites. We do pre-made salads and sandwiches.
Okay.
But it ended up being a cafe, and you know, the Thurston kids are really proud of that cafe, and they love to go there. I mean, they love that old speed line, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I just wondered, I mean, the number of parents that answered the survey isn't large, you know. And so I'm looking at like El Moro 34, Top of the World 104, thinking about the breakfast and knowing from working there that kids came to school without breakfast, and those parents probably weren't part of the survey. I don't know if we can do anything about that, but I don't think we can assume that elementary doesn't want breakfast from.
I think that, you know, I originally started at El Moro in 1992, that was my site. And when I got there, that was one of the things I noticed about the students. They were coming to school and they were hungry.
Right.
So at the recess time, I started this program where we make breakfast sandwiches, parfaits, we have cereal, we have healthy snacks that we serve at recess. So those kids that are hungry, they can come and purchase. Because we don't have a breakfast program, we can't give out the free meal. But there is food that accessible, healthy breakfast food at the elementary sites every day. So, you know, if that's it.
Most of the students I had did not have money to pay for breakfast. So you had nice things when riding by.
So can I piggyback on that real quick?
Sure.
So, one of the things with the breakfast program that's a real challenge for us right now is the current bell schedule. Because you have to have, was it 1 hour?
You have to have 2 hours between breakfast and lunch.
So this is not, just because we got this result in the survey today, does not mean we're not looking into it tomorrow. But a lot of it's gonna be driven by potential bell schedule changes that would allow us to get the reimbursable breakfast program. And it's certainly something that if we hear interest of it, it's not something we take lightly, just like any other nutrition program. Something that it was just a question in the survey, but it's something that we've been working out to other stakeholder groups as well.
Yeah, if you had a breakfast program, you'd have to have it before school in order for it to meet the 2 hours, because the break is at 9:30, lunch is at 11:30 or 11:15, so you don't have that 2 hour break, so it would have to be before school, before the first bell, so that would be buses coming in, you know, there's just a lot that goes with that you would have to iron all that out and then let me know.
It's one of those things that sometimes is harder in a smaller district with a smaller population. I'm just thinking of the years that we tried to do childcare at El Moro. We offered that to the county.
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, the county service,
Head
and
Start.
we just didn't have participation, so.
And then moved it over to the Boys and Girls Club at that time.
I just want to commend you on your tireless effort to go after the organic, the non-GMO. I mean, I know how hard that's been and how much time you have put in trying to make it happen. And I personally appreciate it. And frankly, the food is beautiful. I would have told my cooking classes, people will eat dirt on a stick if it looks nice. And honestly, your food does not taste like dirt, but it is beautiful. And that brings people in, that makes a huge difference. So I really appreciate the fact that you're trying to make things on site. And also empowering our employees and giving them the skills that they can use. Cause I think it's just so important to have that. And they can take that and use that elsewhere as well. And I just think it's really important, the whole process. And then my last, is QW ever gonna get a stove? It's never had a stove.
They do get the same food though, because it's just cooked. It's cooked at the high
Oh.
school. It's cooked at the high school and sent over, so they still have their
I just always
pasta.
had to ask.
They
I just
still-
always had to ask.
Yes.
The power of it.
But yeah, okay, all right.
My other comment is I just think it would be nice to inform parents what's offered. Because to be honest, when my children were in elementary school, their description of the meals was very different than these lovely photos. So I think just correct information, market it out to parents in some fashion. Because I thought part of this slideshow would be great for parents to know. I had no idea there was fresh fruit at the high school.
Every day.
Because my daughter would never, no, just make me something. So I just think more information and communication with parents would be really good.
That's it.
And I'll
Comes
say,
in every day.
my son eats fresh fruit there.
And he's one of the ones that wants to get in early to get that pineapple and strawberries.
That's exactly what I want.
And you know, it's even better now because in the last, I'd say, probably started right after Christmas break, when I got on this program this year. It's called the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Pilot Program. Okay, when we get reimbursements from the federal government, we get money to spend at the commodity store, which usually is frozen fruit, canned vegetables, frozen this, frozen that, okay? So this vegetable pilot program came up and I signed up for it. And I was able to take $9,500 of my commodity money and use it to purchase produce. So then I went out to look for a produce company besides the one I was using, because their list, they didn't have a lot of organics on it. So I found it's called Aggregator. It's an online service that puts farmers with people that wanna buy, school districts or vendors that wanna buy. So I go in and I just scan down the list and I can get just about anything I want. And I'm using that $9,500 to buy that. So each year, I'm gonna try to push a little bit more money into that produce buying so that we can keep it up and because our produce bill will be very low this year because of using that money. And another thing that I was a part of a committee that I work with the state on trying to clean up some of the food that the USDA is actually giving us. And part of the, what I would like to do is to maybe do a pilot program. This is one of my ideas that I put out there. Do a pilot program where they give us cash back to buy our own beef and chicken until they're able to get us what we want. But I would use that the same way. Take money and then use it to buy the organics that I want, that they don't have right now. Or if we could get them to push them to do these things with the large alliance that's forming, to push the USDA to purchase those things.
And Cole is appreciative of your fruit, and I think all the boys at the high school, because they all come in, they're all early, and I realize they're all coming in because they're gonna go get second breakfast.
Right.
I think it's a bad first breakfast.
And they don't all know, we really have to push them, and it's not like, oh, they wanna take the time, but then when they see it and they have it one time, you can't stop them.
And they're like, oh, the burritos and fruit, and they're talking about it, and they're all walking up.
And we made our homemade salsa with organic cilantro and everything. I mean, it's just the amazing things that my staff does.
And now I know what your sweet potato cinnamon rolls are.
Well, along with what Peggy said, I think the cooking that you're doing at the back to school nights is really a helpful way to let parents see what's provided, purchase it, eat it.
Yeah.
So, really had good displays at those last fall. Thank you.
Do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
We have some action items for our meeting tonight. We have oh, you would like to make a comment that was just an information item, okay. I think you were.
Was it supposed to be before?
No,
Oh, okay.
I probably did not ask you to start on, so that's fine.
Hi, Sharon Morgan. I actually went home. I love the video. It's great because I've been watching from home or listening as I was driving. I would like to comment on this item as I was very involved in 2011 when the whole nutritional subject came up and there was a survey done at Thurston, sorry Jenny, and the food was deemed not wonderful by the students. The survey was deemed not acceptable, so the survey was done again. And the survey came back with the same results. One of the first things I'd like to point out is the survey that was just presented, 50% says dissatisfied, and what was just presented said that 50% liked the food, but 25% says somewhat. So I think you need to take that into consideration, that when we're presenting 50% like the food, that's not 100% accurate. So I would really encourage you to take a step back and look at what really is going on, because if we have low participation and 25% saying somewhat, you're now looking at really more like 75% that either don't like it or don't think it's great. It's not that overwhelming of a participation and find it wonderful. So while the pictures are beautiful and the food might look nice and some kids are participating, maybe we're missing something. Maybe something needs to be taken into consideration that isn't being looked at, as why are the kids not eating? We have a nutritional committee that I know works at TOW. I know they're working really hard. I know that the garden is a very active part of all of this. So maybe there needs to be more outreach within the community of the parents that are actually working hands-on. What are they seeing? What are the kids telling them? I know my kid came back and said, I go for a salad at Thurston, there's nothing there. So, maybe they're not getting there right away. So is that really their fault? Because they're not racing to get to a salad and that's why they're not getting a salad? I mean, really? So I think, while this is great, I think you need to take a step back and reevaluate what's going on and what this data really says, because 75% is not a majority of who likes what. Thank you.
Was there any other public comment to be made on this information report?
I know we asked questions.
Yeah, that was
Should we
it.
discuss on information or no?
That was the questions discussion. Is there something you wanted to say?
I was gonna ask some around discussion to see if we wanted to ask the students, because I think this is with parents, and I don't think that, I know I have children who would say, it's Mrs. Just eating mine, I'll never eat it, and I have a child who eats a cereal, right, and would eat it, and loves eating it, and loves eating it. And so, I think it'd be nice to hear from the kids, and maybe they can not the second hand with parents. What parents would, and also some of the parent knowledge is old, but I wanna make sure that we were
I would agree.
in agreement before we
End user.
Yeah.
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 I would agree with that as well. Yeah, that'd be nice to hear what they have to say. I think they might think one highly of it. So maybe our past
I agree.
beliefs on it, that's what I mean, and so I would like to hear it.
Pushing out the information.
Pushing out the information, asking the kids what they think, and then looking at this again, I was getting that information back.
It does have to be tomorrow.
And yeah.
It's already built, so.
Oh, it
Oh,
is?
oh, great.
Is that, yes.
Yes, we have to.
As we get the input from staff that it's not
He should try
time
that.
intensive for. Okay, now we'll move to our action items. Our first action item is item number 14, acceptance of the 10-year facilities master plan update, a dynamic living document that is updated on an annual basis and serves as a planning tool to reflect current progress and alterations from changing conditions and district needs. Are you doing that?
Thank you, President Vickers. I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Zeta to present the updated 10-year facility plan.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. This is a follow-up to the February 13th information item where we presented the 2018 Facilities Master Plan update to you. At that time, on February 13th, we brought to you the current enrollment projections. We statused the current items that were in the Facilities Master Plan for this year, and then we discussed those potential changes to the plan, which would be the update. So what I'm doing here tonight is we're bringing back to you the 2018 Facilities Master Plan update for your approval. To highlight some items, and there is an opportunity at the end or any time if you'd like to discuss any of those items that are in that master plan update. I know we discussed it more in depth at our prior meeting. I wanted to use the opportunity tonight to just address a couple of updates to some of our projects that are in that master plan update. And actually, I have a color board for the first item. Dr. Keller, maybe you could help me grab that color board. I forgot. It's right on the table right there. What I have here for you, which I'll pass out for you, share that. That is our color board for the first project on our project updates, which is the new storage restroom building down at the Laguna Beach High School track. The project, as we've been updating you, is designed. It's in the approval process. Actually, right now, our architect was at the state architect's office in San Diego going through that back check approval where they actually stamp and permit the plans. So we're right there. We're starting the bid process, and we're still on track to be able to complete the bid process and contract and start work at the end of this school year. So it's still tracking the original schedule of starting in end of mid-June or end of June when school gets out, and tracking completion by the end of December. What we haven't really shared with you was the color selection, the color board. It's been there. I think you saw it with some conceptual planning work. So I wanted to just go back and get some feedback from our board members of what they see. Do they like it? If there's something that we want to maybe modify or change, obviously we can do that.
So this might be a comment, because went to Texas A&M, but that's all like Aggie colors, which Dewey Beach High School has maroon, right?
Mhm.
But then you have a burnt orange floor.
Right, and it's nice that you pointed that out because that is something that we would like to steer more towards that proper maroon color. And there's a paint draw down there with that correct maroon color. I did, that does reflect the paint sample there, but I didn't have we didn't have time to look at the tile sample.
Versus that one.
Right, yes.
Right,
Oh,
so,
sure, no, they're gonna.
right, for that tile sample, it
Should be
a little
more
orange.
should be more maroon just like
Okay.
that. Yep,
Okay,
so that's one
that's
item
good.
right there,
Good
Not
news.
very good eye.
Where
So-
are you on deciding on exterior graphic or not?
That is another option, which as of right now, that's not in the plans. If you look at most of the buildings at the facility, there are not exterior graphics, there is a mural on the side of the theater. But the architect did draw up some graphics just to sort of put out there, some creative type of, exterior graphics that could be, placed onto the building. And what this is a conceptual design, some graphics on the track side of the building. Just to get some people's minds working and see that there are options, I want you to know that.
I think part of that would, for me, part of that would be considering who else in the community looks at that as a regular basis. And if they like that, if they'd rather see a plain surface. I'm not sure what the reaction was to what was put on the side of the theater. If there was one, it's not as visible, you can't see, it's not as visible, you have to be only at certain places.
But that faces the track.
Well, but the track is really wide open there. So when you look down, if you're up on some of those streets, across, off of Nickel Hills. And, it is, because we have had concerns from people up there about trees on this side of the English field on classrooms. Right. So it seems that anytime we could be sensitive to, now the old building did have the football graphic on it. I don't know how recent that was, I mean, I don't know how many years that was there, but then our community has also changed.
And also, like, the top is not offensive.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's offensive to
I
you.
know.
I'm not here if you see it now, should I just.
But I agree about being sensitive, but I also think that we need to honor our town and our, and also distinguish spaces in school in ways that it makes it very easy to talk about where you might meet or where you might gather, whether, if you're not from here, if you're a visitor, you don't, yeah, like, where do you go, what does that mean? And I think they will say, whatever that mural is, you can buy the mural.
And if we're okay with the colors as the palettes presented, we would be able to keep the maroon color at the maroon block that's around the snack bar area and the white block that's around more of the storage part of the building that you see here. And then at a later date and time, with the building in place, we could always, go down that road and add a mural, enhance it, improve those aesthetic features that you'd like to see there.
And before you leave that upper tile also, because the bathroom tile is also
Far
more
left
orange
section
than-
down.
Mhm.
That's
More
very orange.
Than is maroon.
On the quarry tile floor.
Is that the floor too on that one? No, the one on
Where's
the,
the board?
on the.
Where else are you?
Yeah.
Brian, this one.
Yes, this
Okay.
one here,
That will be
we want
more
to
maroon?
match this.
Okay, got it.
And that's fine.
This is,
No, I'm just saying,
the
I
base location for us, we can look for a tile that's
Matching,
matching
okay.
that
Which
faces
is
the interior of the
okay.
floor. Yep,
Okay,
this is
down below. Okay.
great,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's right, isn't it? A presentation,
Thank you very much, we really do appreciate that there.
we think you.
Make sure we get it right.
Thank you.
Alright, up next on the list of projects that's included within the facilities master plan update is the renovation to our Laguna Beach High School administration office. It's something that was identified back in the needs assessment. It was included within the architectural services that were approved, and staff has completed the conceptual planning exercises for this facility space across the street. We worked closely with Mr. Dillinger and Dr. Allman and their administrative team with our architect to develop this conceptual plan. I wanted to share that with everyone here because it is noted in the plan update, I believe 2021 is where it's shown. What this slide shows is the existing floor plan at the top left. That's what we have over there now. And what we developed was a new floor plan that uses the building as it is with the existing exterior walls, roof, floor, but it completely redesigns the interior spaces of it. And the intention of the redesign, after assessing the needs, was to promote functional areas of circulation control. Right now, when you go into the office, you can come in through different doors, and everyone comes in and come to a complete junction where it's just head on. It's not the best environment for administrative office. And so what came out of the planning meetings, and there was many meetings and many, editions of this plan, it's probably the 30th plan, and we're at a point where we feel we can share it with you and put it out there and get some feedback, and then put it on the shelf when we're ready to move forward with the project. What we have with the plan is we have an area where what we identified was about 90%, correct me if I'm wrong, but working with the administration staff, about 90% come in out of this door up here. And what that would do for the teachers and students in the site, it would give them a nice entrance into the office that they can come in and be serviced by the receptionist, who also handles their support with the public entry. And it would give them access to the counseling offices, to the attendants, to reception, and also the psych and the student support services. And that kind of gives that area here. It gives a public entrance over here where there's a lobby with also direct access in and out of the conference room. With a little bit of screening so that it's not a complete visible office when the public comes in. It also then provides an administration area back here in the corner where there's a little more privacy and confidentiality. You've got your principal's office here with your 2 APs next to them. And you'll see that this gives another entrance in and out of this area, which gives them good access in and out of there. And it also, you'll see there is an existing retaining wall going around the perimeter of the building that would be somewhat easy to add on a deck onto. And that's what the deck is showing. That gives more options for inside and outside access into the offices, the conference room, and also an in area outside for use by staff. The break room is still up in the area here with the mailboxes, and that will allow staff to come in and out of the mailroom. The restroom moves to an exterior door, which was a big request. So we're pretty pleased with how the planning worked out, and we wanted to share that with you today. If there's no questions, then I'll.
No, it needs it.
It needs it.
Yes, just wanna say that for the record.
All right. Taking a look at the third project that's on the list for projects that are included within the plan update is Thurston Middle School. Currently out there are 2 leased relocatable classrooms located on the field. And we have plans to remove those leased portables. And I'm sure the question that everyone has in the room is why are you planning to modernize another classroom space when we're planning enrollment? And we worked through those discussions with site administrators, with Principal Solberg, and it's essentially the programs and the service that the staff provides to the education, that it's not just because we lose a few students doesn't mean we're reducing the programmatical education spaces in the campus. Actually, they're expanding each year because we continue to add more programmatical opportunities for our students. And that being said, we developed a plan at this site that works with the available funding that would allow us to come up with a project that will remove the 2 portables and essentially move those functions into permanent housing within the facility. We have identified one potential classroom area, and that's the area in blue. That's the current science classroom. That's a little bit larger. There could be some juggling and some renovation work to that building, which would allow the portables to be removed, permanent housing to be provided, and then that would free up field space to do a field modernization, which is the need that everyone continuously talks about because of the heavy use of all of our fields. We have such limited fields in Laguna Beach, and going to a flatter field that is a synthetic turf would provide for much more utilization of that facility.
That is much needed.
Yeah.
Real quick update, we're out to bid for roofing replacement projects. This is also an item in the plan, but I wanted to just give you a quick heads up about it because it's in our plan. We did it last summer, it went very well. We have roofing replacements on the schedule for this summer. You'll see in the bottom left, that's Thurston Middle School. It shows us continuing on at that campus with the administration office and also the classrooms to the right. Looking at the high school, we're planned to be back down at the high school this summer, and we have roofing planned at the back of the library building, over in the 80s wings, and also over at the theater. So we're out to bid. We have some alternates in there. We had a good job walk with I think it was 8 or 9 attendees. So we're really making sure that we get as competitive pricing as possible, and with some alternates, we can make sure that we continue to replace roofs. It's not fun when it leaks. This is the last part of the presentation. It's just to do a quick recap on the funding. What we have here is what we briefly talked about during the information session. These are the significant CIP and the FERC funded projects. It puts them in the fiscal year where they're planned to be completed. It shows the projected project cost, and what it does is it shows at the bottom the starting fund balance, that fiscal year funding allocation that would continue, assuming we continue to be funded through the board's approval, and then the projected cost, and it lets you see the cash flow that this plan update does pencil, so we can feel confident about the funding that is in place to perform these projects. On this next slide, this is the routine restricted maintenance account. I think Jeff may help me on this one a bit, but this is something that is continuously presented with our budget updates to you. Those are the two different object codes, 7408, 7409, which you see, which 08 is more of the maintenance side of the house, and the 09 is the operations, which are somewhat self-explanatory there. So through that, and we're able to perform many of our routine maintenance needs, and so that's how we're able to continue to maintain our facilities and keep them up to the standards that the expectations are set for, and utilize those CIP and FERC for those specific project needs. With that, any questions or comments?
Is there any public comment on this application? Yes.
My name's Howard Hills. I'm going to try to do this in 3 minutes. I'd like to address item 14 and item 16 together, and try to maybe address them from a different perspective.
Our action item 16?
Yeah. In other words, I'm going to try to do both, and then I'll leave you guys alone, and you won't have to hear from me twice. I just want to say that we talk about interdisciplinary curriculum, and we talk about critical thinking and going deeper. I think that you need to go deeper on these two items, and I commend the board for item number 16 in particular. But listening to what the student representative said tonight, you had a student sit here and tell you that she's terrified on our campuses. And when you're doing a facilities plan and you're putting locks in, it seems to me that you need to go deeper, and you need to recognize that right now we're in a very unique situation where facilities, security, overlaps with social and emotional health and learning. And this facility plan and the security plan should be treated as a social and emotional learning opportunity, because you just had a student tell you that the students are terrified on our campus. 3 years ago, I was very critical of the board for using what I felt were too many consultants, but I always said I would make one exception. I would bring a nationally recognized and experienced security firm in here and do a thorough, comprehensive security audit on all the campuses. And that was way before anybody heard of Parkland, or for that matter, Sandy Hook. But the point is, or I guess Sandy Hook happened earlier, but the point is, I particularly advocated that we should address the issue of the period between when a man-made or a natural disaster incident begins, and the arrival of first responders. And we need somebody that knows a lot more than anybody in this room about what the options are for the board in that regard. And I just want to say that I got a lot of phone calls in the last few days from parents who, I think what you need to do is you need to involve the community and have a discussion and involve students in a discussion about what they need to feel safe on their campus. And I've been getting a lot of calls in the last week, something about a survey that was done for social and emotional health. And people that I do not know, whose names I've never heard before, have been calling me. And they said that what we did, instead of developing a survey that we developed locally based on input from the public and build support with parents for what's in the survey of students, that a survey that was designed by some university was taken off the shelf and passed out to the students. And a lot of parents are not happy about some of the questions that were asked in the survey. And I'm not going to get into the merits of that, but I want to say that I get the very distinct impression that there wasn't enough involvement of parents in the development of, or the decision to issue that survey. And I think that instead there should have been a survey that we developed here locally with our staff and our community and our parents and our students before we send a survey out to kids from 5th to 12th grade. And I'll end right there. I appreciate your indulgence, the fact that I went over, and I won't bother you anymore tonight, but I do want to say I think we haven't heard the last of the subject of that survey that was distributed. And I think it should have addressed some of these issues. Thanks very much.
Is there any other public input on item 14 on the facilities master plan update? Any more questions? You have a motion? Well, second. We have a second. Second. More discussion.
On how we keep our schools safe. I know that last meeting I shared in Dr. Board was very heavy game and set me back particularly in a screening space. It wasn't tied into the facility. This was good. We shared that information. I think you had already said you looked at it on the side. I was like, but it wasn't tied into the facility. It was all about social emotional conversations. About locking down the facility. I like the facilities plan as is. I'm excited about what the suggestions are. And the locks are just locks.
That's on item 16 actually.
Oh, the locks not on this one?
No, it's not.
Sorry, I thought,
This is
I thought it was-
16. I thought it was within this
whole
following
thing.
up on the study session where these projects were presented, and now just refreshing us so that we now can vote approval of moving ahead.
That's
Moving
fine.
ahead with the master plan as amended.
Yes, I thought the locks were in the part. Okay, I made my notes, so just.
Hearing some, my only comment as part of this discussion is hearing some of your comments is it makes me think back to a time when they were going to repaint the high school, and so we had board representation on a color committee. It was like, okay, we will never do that again.
That's what I think.
Because it bogged down for months and months and months. Painted samples up on the side of the building and they could not agree. It was the board member came back and said, I would never volunteer to do that again because nobody agreed.
Yeah, I wanna say I like the colors, I think they're fine, yeah, we can work on the oranges, whatever. I think they're lovely and inoffensive, which is great. I think everything that you're moving ahead with is needed, important, and must be addressed. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness that you all have put into also keeping our commitment to the community that we will maintain our facilities to the utmost that we can. So thank you.
My additional comment is I really appreciate the detailed financial information that shows us that we can self-fund, because we're not gonna get the money from anybody else. And it's really important that we see, that we don't just hear that we can self-fund it, we actually see that and see that the columns add up. That's really important.
Yes, to make one comment on the maintenance funding that you see. We really simplified that, but the total number that you see for 748 is tied to 4% of total expenditures, which is the state requirement once we get 2021.
You're talking about this one?
Yeah,
This one. It's a lot of information, but it's also, it costs a lot to maintain the facilities.
Cost you more if you don't.
Of course, and that's a point. Amen.
Ready to vote? Yes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Ryan. Next is action item 15, award of contract for purchase, warranty, and installation of floor covering and related products from Kaya Services LLC based on contract number 4-17-72-0057B of the State of California Multiple Awards Schedules.
Thank you, President Vickers. This is a continuation of the CMAS that we've used in years past. It's for various flooring products throughout the school district. We've used this to support not just our routine maintenance projects, but also the floor sealing projects as we redo those rooms. I'm happy to take any questions.
Public comment on this item? More questions? A motion please. Second. For discussion. Okay. All of them. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. Action item 16, approval, award of contract for purchase and warranty of physical access control systems, PACS, alarm and signal systems, facility management systems, and locking devices from Montgomery Hardware Company based on contract number 4-17-84-0059A of the State of California Multiple Award Schedule.
Thank you, President Vickers. This is helping us to complete our rekeying, which is identified in the facilities master plan. It does improve security, not just in the sense that our locks will be up to date for break into, but also for key control purposes, which we've been identifying in the master plan since 3 years ago as a priority for us, and we'll start it with this summer and then complete all the sites by next summer if this project is approved.
Public comment? Any more questions? Motions? It's just a question, not a discussion. Go ahead.
If a teacher comes to do work on the weekend, like at El Moro, is there a way for them to get in? Is there a key for them to get in?
We've tried the locked box. We used to have a lock box on the outside with a key for the staff to get in, and we've had it there twice and it keeps getting lost. So we decided not to have a key that would get into the school out there. So the only time they can get in, which is quite often, is when the church is there on Sunday, we have a custodian there, AYSO is there on Sunday, and Little League is there on Saturday. We have someone coming to open and close the facilities. Otherwise, it's really problematic with the parking lot and security at the school, because I don't know how safe it is for people to be there when no one else is around. Other people then come on if they open up the parking lot in the school. You have beach traffic, there's all kinds of people that come in there, so it's really difficult to have access 24/7 for security purposes that we've kind of outlined already.
Has that gotten to be more of an issue since all of the camping at the park and so on?
No. The biggest issue is people don't want to pay the $15 to go to the state park. They would rather park in our parking lot for free. And then when we leave and close the gate, because nobody's supposed to be there, they cut the lock off, drive over the planter, damage the sign, whatever it is that's going to happen for them to get out of there.
Okay.
So it's very problematic. We try to provide access, but it's very problematic.
Any questions? Motion? Second. Any discussion?
Obviously, this needs to be done, and I guess if we're gonna talk about safety in this context, if anybody remembers the hue and cry from the community when we closed the track during school hours, you would have thought it was ludicrous, and that took a long time. The beauty of our sites is that the community feels ownership. It's a lovely thing. It also is problematic, and it's a very slippery slope. It's a razor's edge that we have to tread to try to be the community but then remember that our primary mission is to educate and keep our students safe. And so, I think that any outreach we can do, I mean, I realize we're talking about locks, but it does fall into that what we are doing is proactive, not to mention the fact that we do have, we're in close contact with both the police department and the fire department. We have, active drills. We don't have our heads in the sand, about any of this stuff. So I just think it's important that we remember. I just think we just have to keep all those things when we're making decisions that affect our students. That's it.
Just commenting on the thing about closing the track, I think that was before you were here, Jim, but I think in my opinion, it wasn't handled well in the introduction, and that told us at that time we needed to do a lot more community outreach before we put something in place that was offensive to people who didn't feel they were criminals. So that created a lot of that problem. But on the other, an additional comment is, and you were here for that, I remember you were at one PTA meeting at night at Top of the World after Sandy Hook, because we did a lot of, we had, I think particularly where that would be in the elementary school, so we had meetings at all the school sites, we had a lot of input from our staff of the kinds of things that they wanted. And I know Chris, that came up at the PTA meeting in Laurel last week, and he addressed it really completely with the parents there, the things that have changed in our world. At Top of the World at that PTA meeting, there was there were parents over here, please don't lock our school up, we live in the neighborhood, we come over here on the weekend, we bring our kids, we fly kites. And the parents who said, I wanna see, 15-foot fences and everything locked up when the kids are here, let them in and lock it up. And so and Jeff having experience in Irvine, which master planned a community to be open, free-flowing schools right into big park spaces. So it is, when we talk about slippery slope, I mean, it really is hard to have that balance, but I know we did a lot after that incident, as to what we did in our schools. And now we have the raptor system, which is really for sex offenders, right? But it's still, we put a lot into place, and I think it was good for those. Parking was an issue. There were a parent that wanted everybody to be checked in the school parking during the day. I don't know. They were concerned about people parking there. They've seen people that they don't think they belong there. And again, Chris pointed out that it could be somebody that was visiting the family, the grandparent that came that day to pick the kid up, and so it's complex. But I think schools and part of this is that not overlooking either, is that we have too many keys out right now.
Right.
So the system got away from us. I mean, it's like you get a key because you worked as a part-time coach, and then you leave and the key goes with you. So we just have, this will help us get that under control. Right. That's my 5 cents, I guess.
Another step towards safety.
Yes, it is, but it's also for the protection of our sites from just misuse on a much smaller mischief type level.
Yeah, it's at basketball when I was supposed to be Thursday.
And the safety of the teachers. 5 AM room lucky in the gym at the high school. Led by teachers.
But, and I agree with you, schools are supposed to be communities, they're not prisons, they're supposed to be, and that's what I get, there wasn't community outreach, but really that's that's part of our community, that's where we go, right? And so, it's signage to walk, and thank you for always thinking about it, because I know we're not talking about safety plan as a key, but when I ask my 100 questions about safety plan, you're on it, you know it, and you're talking to everyone, you're getting everyone in the same room. And the keys are a big issue of keeping people safe, and just making sure there's not a bunch of keys out there. There's someone's going. Thank you. Ready to go?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. Action item 17 is the second reading, board policy, second reading and final approval of 21 policies that we had as the first reading of the last week. Do we have any presentation of your names on there?
You did it.
Good job, everyone.
Thanks.
Any public comment? Board questions? contract services agreement for keynote speaker, Mr. Jeff Heil, for the Laguna Beach Unified School District Summer Staff Professional Development Program on August 29th, 2018, in an amount not to exceed $5,000.
Yeah, so thank you for your consideration of this item. He was recommended to us because he did speak at the Global Summit. I see we have some fans in the audience, so one of the things that he emphasizes is some of the work that we are deeply engaged around social emotional learning, relationships between staff, students, and moonshots dreaming big. So we believe this would be a nice way to kick off the school year.
Public comment? Or questions? Motion? Someone? Second. Any discussion?
He's awesome. I heard him. I heard him over here. And he was amazing. I wish I had known how to use my phone to tape it, but I just put his name in there. He's fabulous.
Well, that should be a great start then.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, he really is.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. And we are, last item, item 19, board member requests for items for next meeting, requests for information and general comments.
I have none. I did attend the LDHS family 8th grade orientation, which was a success, and the administrators barely spoke at all. It was the kids really led it, right? And they were in the gyms corralling people and getting the kids to come in and enjoy things and sign up as a soft maybe, that's all they were sign up as. So that was great, and then MUN, Laguna Beach High School, MUN had their conference here again. Kids and students. And they had a cultural fair in the quad, and parents in the community or community members, based on the learning parents, that could represent their country, right? So the kids found people and they came, and the kids spoke the languages they were there, and so they represented. That was awesome. They raised money. Let's say they raised $500 or $600 for their water. I think they raised money for every year for the water, and some people share, so I'm trying not to share their excitement on that. I also was on March 14th, I was at the walkout part of the walkout at the end, and kids took signs back, and some of the MUN, they signed the signs, and some of the MUN kids, because when they realized the conference was on the 24th, they signed it so that I took their signs with their names to the march downtown, because they couldn't go. And so kids had signed them, yeah, and I handed them out to some other kids, and so sort of kids had, yeah, so it was a nice way for them to choose both and participate together. And what was that? And then in listening to the students sharing all good intentions, but they felt invalidated, and they've been sharing. Like they come up to me on campus in a different way when they see me, not excited. They're either mad at me or they're sad. They're mad or they're sad. So they're feeling invalidated. And I don't know, our job isn't to what the answer is. I don't want them to feel. But I did like the thought of, I don't know what the Seattle policy was, that one of the speakers spoke about. I thought it'd be great if we looked at it and maybe just had an update so we could see what it is. We all have the same feel of what it is. I don't know what it is, right? And so
We don't want to be Seattle Unified, I can tell you that.
oh, no, I'm not saying that, just, right, but like, I didn't even think about like a policy like that, that's what we do, we create a policy.
It's a social activism policy.
Yeah,
That's
it's
actually
I have a
very
problem, I think
interesting.
that's,
Yeah, I like that.
so, and if there's consensus that
Do
we
we have
can
consensus on, are you?
I think that's.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
And then we already talked about how the school saves, and then the kids did talk about the fact that they wanna walk out on the 14th of every month. They did realize that this 14th is April's Saturday, so that they already, there's a national discussion of April 20th, and they didn't want.
The 20th is the
Columbine. Right, so that's what, so they're going to that instead of the 14th, but they wanted it until gun regulation changed. On the 14th, they want to walk out every 14th without changes. On a national level. It's a national level conversation. I see, right, I'm just saying, I just want to share it because they're frustrated about it. And that, and that, they do talk about that fair, kind of the fear of being at school. And I thought that's what kept them from students walk out and then they lay down, and they hold their signs and they lay in the corner for 17 minutes, right? Different kids do different things, but when they're talking about their fear, I was like, we want them to be empowered, not to be afraid of being in trouble. We want them to be empowered and have their right to do their First Amendment. So, I don't know if there's anything we need to change our conversation or anything we can discuss this. I don't know if that's just protocols, I don't know. I don't know if that's just looking at the policy, maybe in that policy is where that's discussed. So, but I will finish here, because so many have come up about that.
I went early to the Hulst, invitation, right? It's a great event, and thank every single person who is involved in that. I just thank you, because it means a lot to the kids, and it really is, it has become a big deal. So thank you for all you do to make it happen. I also want to thank you all for the, the suspension data, DS. Oh, she's hiding, I can't see her.
We've got a lot of data.
There, yeah, and it just, it's good to, I'm glad you asked the question, I'm glad that we are underperforming the county and the state, and that, so I appreciate that. So thank you for that information, it's always good to have data. And then, I too feel that the kids need to be heard, but I also think, you wanna walk out? Walk out. I'm sorry that of all places in the world to be able to do that without fear is here. I was afraid for the entire thing because I'm coming at it from the perspective of a parent, and I'm sorry, who knows what whack job's out there?
Right.
And sees that, and so of course, as a parent, I want my kids to be safe. I appreciate what you all tried to do. I appreciate that. I also understand at one point I was 18, 150 years ago, and yeah, I wanted to, I couldn't vote. I couldn't vote till I was 21. So I see that, but you know, they are 16, 17, 18 years old. And if they want to make those choices, they should be able to make those choices. And there may be consequences, because there's consequences in life. So if it's that important to you, do it, face the consequences, accept it, move forward. Because that's how you make a statement, that's how you make a stand. As an adult, we have to do that all the time. As a parent, we have to do that all the time. And so I appreciate them coming, I appreciate the parent who was here. But I also think that if you feel so strongly, then stand up. Stand up and do what you need to do.
And there were kids that did that, and I kept saying that, it's just that I wanted to share, because I didn't know if you
I
guys
think
heard, I
the
wanted to
students
share.
referenced that about themselves, they were actually talking about themselves, that they weren't organized. That wasn't up to administration.
Yeah.
So they need to hear what they're saying about themselves, because I heard it. And I also didn't see them after school with their signs walking down and standing where those old people that have protested the war are down around that corner.
years, yeah.
For years they've been down there. So I agree with you, but then see, I'm a child of the 60s, and so that's
Yeah,
what
I'm
it
a
is.
lazy
You
child
want-
of the
you want-
70s, we didn't do anything.
You wanna do it, you do it, you know, and you take the consequence. So I'm not challenging them to do that the next time.
No.
And I think what we were, at least I'm in agreement with what you said, what I thought we were looking at is how can we support them and keep them safe, because right now the climate, the social climate, if you didn't do that as the adult who has a responsibility, then you're saying as if something happened, if 40, 50 adults came and in that crowd is one of those off-key people, and then the students, you put them out there, if you allowed it, if they defy you and do it anyway, but I mean, that's the dilemma, we're in that position of, it's like the parent saying, no, you're not gonna drive the car, you don't have a license yet, well, everybody else is doing it, well, you're not gonna do it. So
If we had not changed the bell schedule, how would it have played out? And that's where, I mean, I think.
Well, we were
I
trying
think their
to
complaints were
validate
valid.
Yeah, oh, I agree.
Yeah,
I
it
agree.
would water down any point, and so
No.
everyone that I talked to, I was like, your point is completely valid.
I think on the other hand though, Peggy, maybe because I think we need a little fairness to our side.
Correct.
Of understanding of the position that we're in.
Yeah, I tried to share that with the students I
Altering the
spoke
bell
to.
schedule was to try in a sense to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
And
For
not
those
to
that
be,
did not
it's-
want to.
It's a shame to me when they use that saying that they're ashamed. That makes me feel like there wasn't an appreciation of the attempts that were to make, to have it work.
Because I think that every single person on this board was supportive of
They're right.
of the
They're
right to
right.
understand. There was never any question in my mind.
It
We
was
didn't all feel
diluted
that
by
way.
changing the bell
The best, right,
And
and that's a fair,
That's a total fair statement.
Exactly.
Because
Yes,
There were
Iris
some
and I
other
have
schools that were reported that changed the bell schedule, and the students did something much more significant
Yes,
with
that's
that time. And some of the comments that they made were not critical of that happening, but just that they used the time with what they had.
Well, but I appreciate they came and spoke.
I do too, I think that's important.
Advocate for themselves.
I just have to add one more thing, I think just like when we do with anything else, I think we have to be, when one student represents everybody, we have to think carefully. And I also think that it's maybe that there needs to be some communication with parents that because this is so news intensive, that intensifies the fear in their own students. So perhaps we need to get some information out, just like whether it comes through PT or whatever, that we're aware of this, and so you need to have those discussions with your student. That, because it is, when you see something and hear it on the news continually night after night after night, it raises your fear level. So it's, and I hate to think that students are coming to school actually wondering if that's gonna happen that day in their school. But
They have that.
It's
intensified.
And I
It's
have,
a generation.
I'm not sure it happened that much after, say, Columbine or after Sandy Hook, because it didn't have this intense, weeks long on the nightly news or in the paper every day. And when that article, that NPR article, really pointed out the complexity of the issue. And the complexity, I mean, even some of the kids that were interviewed in Parkland, they had bugged that kid themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So that underlying issue is super significant, and we're doing a lot to address that.
Right.
So it's not, it's, and I'm not sure that, you know, where the vehicle is or what the school site's responsibility are, but it's our, in particular our high school kids, they need to understand this is a complex issue. And it makes me nervous when I see things like, if we just get this gun law passed, then we'll make sure it never happens again. I wouldn't make that statement, just based on years ago, where it's like, how do you answer the test question? If it says always or never, you know, it's not true, right? So I don't want to.
I think it depends on the article you read. I don't think there's any journalist who said this is not complex. This is really
I'm
complex.
talking the kids.
But not the Parkland kids. The Parkland kids, if you follow them, it's complex.
Well, I know that, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about what we hear from our kids here, I'm not sure it's registered.
Oh, I think they have a complexity
Disagree.
too. They have a complexity too, and they understand that teachers themselves have a fear, and there's a complexity to that. They understood that teachers wanted to also have a voice and to be part of it, or allow civil discourse, because that's one thing lacking in society as a general. Like, they appreciate those pieces. I think the bell schedule piece just kind of
Watered down.
They weren't sure when they were supposed to go.
It blended those who wanted to and those who did not want to into one pool.
It did that as well, yeah.
And that pool then just dissipates any of the social activism, those that wanted to go. My daughter signed that petition and informed me. I said, okay, and we had.
It's fair.
It's fair. Her comment was completely fair, and then I told her our side, I just said the district side is this, we have to protect all kids and, so.
And the safety comments important, and the police were out there, and that's amazing, and they were out there to protect the students, and a couple of the students said that they wanted to be arrested, and the police were like, who are you? You're protecting to make sure no one else is gonna hurt you. And when they wanted to protest, but they really wanted, right, they wanted the full effect of it, and I'm like, no, we're here to make sure no one's gonna hurt you.
No tear gas.
Yeah, and so it was.
Sorry, we're going too long on
Okay.
this. Yes.
All right, we're all,
Well, I think it was very important.
I want them to make sure they.
Yeah, well, we've got the one things inside of the walls.
Okay. Okay, new topic. I went to the coffee talk with Juliet Murphy on teen career success. And I never know how those things go. I mean, everybody's always so polite and nice, so this is wonderful, but, so I contacted her and asked her. She had offered for any parents who wanted to to come and for free, and she would kind of help them with learn to communicate with their teenager. And she had 18 of our parents call her.
Wow.
So I think that's quite a few. I think that's quite a few, and it may be part of careers. Not just it's being able to talk with your child. Like her example was, what do you do if your child comes to you and says, I found a career, I want to be a stripper. And she said, you don't go, oh, you just say, oh, that's interesting. And will this be a lifelong career, or is this just for a while? And you just
anyone to be a prisoner.
these things fast. But you just engage with them so that they continue talking to you, and you listen to them before you put them into a college for a career that they don't want. So it was all that kind of thing. But I was impressed that so many people really thought that was valuable. And then I went to the Creative Edge lecture that was by the Orange County Department of Ed and our PTAs, and so Alma Harris, of course, was there, and it was fantastic. Robert Dukes gave it, and it was about music and creativity, and it was inspirational. Then today I was really lucky to meet with Irene and Alicia about dyslexia, and I'm so impressed with all we're doing. We used to say if a student wasn't reading, they had to be 2 years behind, so they'd wait till 3rd grade for them to only be at 1st grade level to get them help. And now, we're looking at helping kindergartners, and we have we don't want kids to start feeling like they're failures and waste all that time. So I'm really proud of what our team is doing and our teachers. It's great. It's great. And let's see, lastly, it's really fun. I got to take TOW 3rd graders on a museum tour, and it reminded me why we all volunteered to do this for the students and the improvement in their lives. They were.
I did enjoy hearing our students speak at the Crystal Apple Awards. Where do I put it? It was Mark Alvarez and Laura Greco, and the students, they were really touched by what the students said, but it was they did a really nice job and very, very enthusiastic about their teachers, as were the students in the other schools. I shared this already with a couple of people, but I did read the write-up on the trophy meet, and I wanted to pass my compliments to Edie Hunt because of the way she talked about the other girl, hardly anything about herself, and I think that's pretty remarkable. You don't see that much at any age level, but I was really impressed, and I wanted to make sure that she got that feedback. And then at the high school PTA meeting, and Lynn Gregory shared what she and Ann are doing. They're taking kids on visits to colleges, and they can't take a whole lot because they limit the tour at the college university to 40. But they're going to, if I have it right, Fullerton, Concordia, and UCI. And they get on the bus and they go. And then they're bringing
Sure. Oh, no, I was just asking what the student's name was that you were talking about, that
Evie
was quoted. Evie Cant, C-A-N-T. She's a runner. Her sister.
She just did really well in the race, and it was a freshman girl, and she just kept complimenting her. And then how, great it was that she could be in that race. And it was just impressive. I did stop in at the Elmore Exotic-a-thon. They were having a lot of fun. They had, if you saw that picture, Avi Weiner who was our student rep and who stayed here. The more active era of student reps, and it does need to come sometimes from them. But he ran in his full outfit. I saw him right after he finished by it was not easy. It weighs about 60 pounds. So he was running laps. And then the Marines came and they were running with the kids. I couldn't come to the top of the rope because you guys do it at the same time. But I'm sure it was.
There's always next year.
Yeah. It was very, they had so much participation. They have booths and giving away things, and for bonsai bowl, they were giving all the kids. It was really nice. So, when I asked Chris about that, he said this job is under me a few days were like on overdrive. And let's see, oh, yes, I think I asked Victoria to help me with. This is a request from they're applying for a federal grant, they like a letter of support from our district.
Oh.
So again, we need to have, I don't think it has to come back as an action item, their timeline is that they need it, they submit at the end of April, they'd like to have all their data by April 16th. But if we can agree that, yes.
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 They said, yes, meeting in April. And just so you know, they see,
At the end of April, they submit.
he told me he would like it within 2 weeks.
Right, by the 16th. So I emailed him, he answered.
Okay,
That's what he answered.
yeah.
So are you asking staff to draft a letter of support on behalf of the superintendent, or what are you asking?
No, he drafted the letter. We just have to fill in.
Well, he's given a sample of what we,
Right.
a template,
So that we would, and just,
personalize it, not, you don't have to read it.
and just so we know, he has 400 pediatric patients he sees a year and 3,000 pediatric visits a year, as well as, you know, vaccination programs, they do a lot.
And are they asking that we sign it as a board, right, so sign it?
Send it.
So when we
Well,
sign it,
or
or
as the district.
and you'll,
Yeah.
the sign, okay, as a district, yeah.
Okay. So our next regular meeting is on Tuesday, April 17th, here at 6 o'clock in the boardroom, and looking for adjournment. So moved.
Okay.
All in favor?